On a sweltering August afternoon in 1962, a coal mine worker named John Coddington was walking through the streets of Centralia, Pennsylvania, when he noticed something that would haunt him for the rest of his life. Steam was rising from the ground beneath his feet. Not just a little steam, thick, acrid clouds that smelled of sulfur, and seemed to emerge from the very earth itself, as if the town had been built on top of a hidden entrance to hell. What John had discovered was the beginning of what scientists now call one of the most persistent environmental disasters in American history, an underground coal fire that has been burning continuously for over 60 years, turning an entire town into something that seems more like science fiction than reality. But here's what makes this discovery truly extraordinary. Centralia isn't unique. Pennsylvania, the same state known for its historic cities, rolling farmland, and Amish country, is actually home to some of the most bizarre, inexplicable, and downright otherworldly places you'll find anywhere on Earth. There's a cave system so vast that explorers still haven't mapped its full extent. A lake that appears and disappears on a schedule that defies explanation. A place where gravity seems to work differently than anywhere else on the planet. And locations where the ground literally glows in the dark due to natural phenomena that scientists are still struggling to understand. You've probably driven through Pennsylvania dozens of times, thinking you know what the Keystone State has to offer. But hidden beneath its familiar surface are places that challenge our understanding of physics, geology, and what's possible in the natural world. You're watching Undiscovered America, where we explore overlooked corners of the country that most maps and travel guides won't show you to discover the undiscovered parts of America. Join me today as we venture into the hidden Pennsylvania that exists parallel to the state millions of tourists think they know, where the line between natural wonder and scientific impossibility becomes surprisingly thin. So let's begin our journey through Pennsylvania's most unbelievable places, starting with the underground inferno that's been burning since the Kennedy administration. Number 1. Centralia is a town that exists in a perpetual state of apocalypse, where the ground has been on fire for over 6 decades and shows no signs of stopping. The Centralia mine fire began in 1962, most likely when someone attempted to burn trash in a landfill that was unfortunately located near an exposed coal seam. What should have been a routine waste disposal operation instead ignited a coal deposit that extends deep underground throughout the region. At first, local officials thought they could control the fire. They tried flooding the mines, pumping in flame-retardant foam, and even digging trenches to contain the blaze. Nothing worked. The fire spread through the interconnected network of abandoned coal mines that honeycombed the area beneath Centralia, creating an underground inferno that generates temperatures exceeding 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit. By 1980, the situation had become surreal. Residents reported that the ground in their backyards was too hot to walk on. Gardens began producing vegetables that tasted of sulfur. Children playing in local parks discovered that certain patches of grass were warm to the touch year-round, even in the depths of winter. But it was in 1981 that the true danger became apparent. 12-year-old Todd Domboski was playing in his grandmother's backyard when the ground suddenly opened beneath his feet, creating a sinkhole filled with deadly carbon monoxide gas. Only quick thinking by his cousin saved Todd from being swallowed by the earth or poisoned by the toxic fumes. The federal government finally acknowledged that Centralia had become uninhabitable. In 1984, Congress approved a $42 million relocation program, and by 1992, most of the town's residents had been relocated. Their homes were demolished, and the area was officially condemned. Today, Centralia is a ghost town, where the apocalypse is ongoing. Steam still rises from cracks in the empty streets. The few remaining road surfaces are buckled and cracked from the heat below. Vegetation struggles to grow in soil that's been chemically altered by decades of underground combustion. Scientists estimate that the Centralia mine fire contains enough coal to burn for another 250 years. It's a slow-motion disaster that transforms a typical Pennsylvania town into something that resembles the surface of an alien planet. Number 2. Bushkill Falls and the Hidden Cave System contains a cave network so extensive that portions remain completely unexplored. Behind the famous 300-foot waterfall lies a mystery discovered in 1923 by University of Pennsylvania researchers. What they thought was a simple cave became a network of interconnected caverns, underground rivers, and chambers extending for miles. Some caves are permanently flooded, requiring specialized diving equipment. Others contain formations so delicate that vibrations could destroy features that took millennia to form. Several chambers are so deep that researchers still haven't found their bottom. The system appears geologically active in ways scientists don't understand. Water levels fluctuate unpredictably, and air currents suggest surface connections that haven't been located. In 1987, researchers discovered marine fossils that shouldn't exist hundreds of miles from any ocean, suggesting the system is far older than previously thought. Number 3. Lake Jean at Ricketts. Glen State Park appears to be a typical mountain lake, but it exhibits a phenomenon that has puzzled hydrologists for decades. It periodically drains completely, then refills itself according to a pattern that no one has been able to predict or explain. Lake Jean sits at an elevation of 2,162 feet in the Pocono Mountains, surrounded by one of Pennsylvania's most pristine old-growth forests. On most days, it's a beautiful but unremarkable body of water covering about 245 acres. But several times each decade, something extraordinary happens. Without warning, the lake begins to drain, not gradually, as you might expect from evaporation or normal water flow, but rapidly, sometimes losing half its volume in a matter of days. Fish that were swimming in deep water suddenly find themselves stranded in shallow pools. Boat docks that were floating become grounded on exposed lakebed. Then, just as mysteriously, the lake refills. Water appears to flow in from sources that geologists haven't been able to identify. And within weeks, Lake Jean returns to its normal level as if nothing had happened. The first documented drainage event occurred in 1943 when park rangers arrived one morning to find that the lake had lost approximately 60% of its water overnight. Since then, similar events have occurred in 1959, 1965, 1983, 1999, and 2018. Each time, investigators have tried to determine where the water goes and where it comes from when the lake refills. Underground surveys have revealed a complex network of limestone caverns beneath the lake, but none large enough to account for the volume of water that disappears. Some theories suggest that the drainage is connected to seasonal changes in underground water pressure. But the timing of the events doesn't correlate with rainfall, snowmelt, or any other measurable environmental factors. Local Native American legends speak of Lake Jean as a place where the earth breathes, suggesting that this phenomenon may have been occurring for centuries before scientists began documenting it. Whether this is a natural geological process that we don't yet understand, or something more mysterious, remains an open question. Number 4. The Gravity Hill near New Paris is where cars roll uphill and water flows in directions that should be impossible. On this quiet Bedford County road, if you park at the bottom of what appears to be a hill and release the brake, your vehicle begins rolling upward, apparently defying gravity. The effect works with tennis balls and fully loaded trucks alike. Water poured on the road flows uphill. Scientists using precision instruments discovered the road actually slopes downhill in the direction cars roll. But surrounding landscape creates a powerful optical illusion that reverses our perception of up and down. The specific combination of topography and sight lines required for this effect is extremely rare worldwide. Number 5. The Kinzua Bridge State Park contains the remnants of what was once considered an engineering marvel, but which nature reclaimed in a single, devastating moment that created an accidental monument to to the power of natural forces. The original Kinzua Bridge was built in 1882 as part of a railroad line designed to transport coal and lumber through the rugged terrain of northwestern Pennsylvania. At 301 feet high and 2,053 feet long, it was the highest railroad bridge in the world when it was completed. For over a century, the Kinzua Bridge served as both a functional piece of infrastructure and a tourist attraction. The railroad line was eventually abandoned, but the bridge was converted into a pedestrian walkway that offered spectacular views of the Kinzua Gorge. Then, on July 21st, 2003, everything changed. An F1 tornado with winds reaching 94 miles per hour struck the bridge directly. In a matter of minutes, 11 of the bridge's 20 towers were twisted and collapsed, sending massive steel girders crashing into the gorge below. What the tornado created was something unprecedented. A half-destroyed bridge that became more compelling as a ruin than it had ever been as a functioning structure. The remaining towers stand like giant sentinels, their twisted metal reaching toward the collapsed section, in a monument to both human engineering and natural power. Instead of clearing away the wreckage, park officials decided to leave it where it fell. Today, visitors can walk through the twisted remains of the bridge towers, creating an experience that feels more like exploring the aftermath of some cosmic catastrophe than visiting a typical state park. Number 6. The glowing rocks of Franklin County emit brilliant fluorescent light when exposed to ultraviolet radiation. During daylight, these rocks look like typical limestone and marble, but illuminate them with black light and they transform into something alien. Brilliant pinks, electric blues, and vivid greens that pulse and shift. Some contain multiple minerals fluorescing in different colors simultaneously. This occurs because rocks contain rare minerals like willemite, calcite, and fluorite, which absorb UV light and re-emit it as visible light. Franklin County contains more fluorescent mineral species than entire countries, a concentration that geologists still struggle to explain. Number 7. The concrete city of Nanticoke is an abandoned housing development that represents one of the strangest experiments in American urban planning, a town built entirely from concrete that was designed to last forever, but was abandoned after less than 2 decades. In 1911, the Delaware, Lackawanna, and Western Railroad decided to build company housing for workers at their coal mines near Nanticoke. But instead of constructing typical wooden houses, they decided to experiment with a revolutionary building material, reinforced concrete. The concrete city, as it came to be known, consisted of 20 identical concrete houses arranged in neat rows. Each house was built from poured concrete, reinforced with steel mesh, creating structures that the railroad company believed would be maintenance-free and virtually indestructible. For a brief period, the experiment seemed successful. The concrete houses were cool in summer, warm in winter, and required virtually no maintenance. Families moved in and established a thriving community, complete with gardens, social clubs, and neighborhood traditions. But by the late 1920s, it became apparent that the concrete city experiment had serious flaws. The houses were difficult to modify or expand as families grew. The concrete construction made it impossible to install modern electrical wiring or plumbing systems. And perhaps most importantly, workers increasingly preferred traditional housing with more privacy and individuality. Today, the concrete city stands as one of America's most unusual ghost towns. The concrete houses remain structurally sound after more than a century, testament to the durability of their construction. But they're slowly being reclaimed by vegetation, creating a landscape that feels both futuristic and ancient. Number 8. Eastern State Penitentiary wasn't just a prison. It was a radical experiment in human psychology that created one of the most psychologically intense environments ever built, and which continues to affect visitors in ways that scientists struggle to explain. When Eastern State Penitentiary opened in 1829, it represented a revolutionary approach to criminal justice. Instead of simply warehousing prisoners, the facility was designed to inspire penitents through complete isolation and silence. Each prisoner was confined to a cell alone, forbidden from communicating with other inmates, and required to contemplate their crimes in absolute solitude. The architecture of Keystone State was specifically designed to create psychological pressure. The prison was built in a radial pattern with cell blocks extending like spokes from a central hub. This design allowed guards to observe all areas of the prison from a single location, creating a sense of constant surveillance that was intended to modify prisoner behavior. The psychological effects of this system were more extreme than its designers had anticipated. Many prisoners suffered complete mental breakdowns. Others developed elaborate coping mechanisms, including detailed fantasy worlds and imaginary companions. Some became so adapted to isolation that they were unable to function when released. Keystone State operated as a prison until 1971, but its impact on the hundreds of thousands of people who were confined there seems to have left a psychological residue that persists today. Visitors frequently report feeling overwhelmed by sadness, anxiety, or claustrophobia that can't be explained by the physical environment alone. Number 9. The ringing rocks of Upper Black Eddy are a field of boulders that produce musical tones when struck, creating a natural percussion instrument that has puzzled geologists and musicians for over a century. Located in Bucks County, the Ringing Rocks Park contains a 7-acre boulder field where many of the stones ring like bells when hit with a hammer or another rock. The sounds produced range from high, clear tones to deep, resonant notes, and skilled visitors can actually play recognizable melodies by striking different rocks in sequence. The phenomenon occurs because the rocks have a unique internal structure that allows them to vibrate at specific frequencies when struck. The boulders are composed of diabase, a type of volcanic rock, but not all diabase rocks ring. Only those that have been subjected to very specific geological conditions during their formation. Scientists have studied the ringing rocks extensively, using electron microscopes and acoustic analysis equipment to understand why these particular stones produce musical tones, while chemically identical rocks from other locations remain silent when struck. What they've discovered is that the ringing rocks have an internal crystal structure that's under constant stress, creating natural resonating chambers within the stone. But here's what makes the ringing rocks truly mysterious. Geologists haven't been able to fully explain why this particular boulder field contains so many musical stones, while similar formations elsewhere remain silent. The specific combination of geological processes required to create ringing rocks appears to be extremely rare. Native American legends describe the ringing rocks as a place where the earth itself could sing, suggesting that the phenomenon has been known for centuries. Early European settlers were amazed by the musical stones and developed their own folklore to explain the strange sounds. So what do these 9 extraordinary places tell us about Pennsylvania and about the hidden wonders that exist in even the most familiar landscapes? First, there's the remarkable diversity of phenomena that can occur within a relatively small geographical area. Pennsylvania contains underground fires, musical rocks, gravity-defying hills, disappearing lakes, and fluorescent stones, a collection of natural and human-created wonders that spans geology, physics, psychology, and engineering. Second, there's the recurring theme of the unexpected. Many of these places exist because of accidents, experiments, or natural processes that created results no one anticipated. The Centralia mine fire was supposed to be a routine trash burning. The concrete city was intended to be permanent housing. Keystone State Penitentiary was designed to reform criminals through isolation. Third, there's the persistence of mystery even in our supposedly well-understood modern world. Despite decades of scientific study, researchers still can't fully explain why Lake Jean drains and refills, why certain rocks fluoresce while others don't, or why some diabase stones ring like bells while chemically identical rocks remain silent. But perhaps most importantly, these places remind us that wonder and mystery don't require exotic locations or extreme environments. Some of the most extraordinary phenomena on Earth can be found along country roads, in abandoned towns, or in state parks that millions of people drive past without realizing what they're missing. The Pennsylvania that contains these 9 incredible places exists parallel to the Pennsylvania that most people know, the state of historic cities, Amish farmland, and familiar tourist attractions. But underneath that familiar surface lies a landscape shaped by forces both natural and human that have created places bordering on the impossible. From underground fires that have burned for decades to rocks that glow in the dark, from lakes that periodically disappear to hills where gravity seems reversed, Pennsylvania contains wonders that challenge our understanding of how the world works. These places exist not because Pennsylvania is uniquely strange, but because extraordinary phenomena can emerge anywhere when the right combination of natural forces, human activity, and random chance intersect. As you travel through Pennsylvania, whether you're visiting family, commuting to work, or just passing through on your way somewhere else, remember that you're driving through a landscape layered with mysteries. Hidden beneath the familiar surface are places where the impossible becomes real, where human ambition and natural forces have combined to create accidental wonders, and where the line between the known and unknown is thinner than most people imagine. These 9 incredible places aren't just tourist curiosities. They're windows into the fundamental processes that shape our world in ways both predictable and impossible to foresee. And in a time when we often feel like every corner of the earth has been mapped, measured, and explained, places like these remind us that mystery and wonder are still waiting to be discovered, sometimes in the most unexpected places.